Do you always have the urge to jump when you're in high places? If so, then this video is for you. I don't want to make this a pity party, sad, depressing, dark, boohoo video. It's kind of pathetic. So, no. Thank you guys for tuning in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from whenever you're watching. And if you're watching from the distant future, hi. I know this video is a bit late, but I am recovering. Although the primary reason this video is late is because I actually did film this video before. However, it wasn't structured enough, and while I was editing the video, I just did not like how everything was going. So I just scrapped it and started over. In today's video, I wanted to talk about why my brain hates me. This manifests in a few ways: anxiety, self-doubt, and so on. I also wanted to make this video because I feel like sometimes it's comforting being able to relate to someone's experience. In addition, I can share some of my tips on how I handle it, and maybe you can share some of yours in the comments below and we can have like a sort of a discussion with each other. To start off, I do not have debilitating anxiety. Anxiety is something everyone deals with at varying degrees, and it's actually something quite natural. It's like a battle between our brains and ourselves. I've always been quite the pessimist growing up due to the environment I was in as a child, but in my early to mid-teens, I kind of saw it as a strength, in that I used my grim outlook towards life to become a better planner, so these negative possibilities do not become reality. But as I grew older, I noticed some weird things happening, and especially now that I'm a business owner, there's that added pressure to perform, because it's no longer just you have employees, rent, targets, and you begin to see how much more can go wrong. I always thought that anxiety was one of those fashionable social media things, like freaking what is that thing called again? Labubu. So I never really applied it to myself until one day I was going through it.
Losing my motherfucking medulla.
And my friend was like, maybe you're suffering from anxiety. And right in that moment, a light bulb went off. And this is no video sponsored by BetterHelp or any of those things, therapy things. Because if you look down, I have like 2 subscribers. No one cares. Ew. I think the main way my brain hates me is by creating anxiety out of thin air for no good reason. And here are some examples. I don't think I have a fear of traveling, but every time I travel long distances, there's always the thought that there's an impending disaster. A few years ago, I started traveling internationally for the first time, and every time I got on the plane, my brain is like, when was the last major plane crash? Oh, that's right. This one. Of course, it doesn't stop me from traveling ever, but why would my brain bring something like that up at that moment? For work, we have some out-of-town locations that takes about 2 hours to get there, and I kid you not, so many times I dread going because I'm convinced I'm gonna end up in a vehicular accident. The roads to those locations are kind of dangerous, so my mom would just tell me, take precautions and you'll be fine. And my brain tells her,
it doesn't matter if you're careful, because I can recall accidents where the person who was careful died and the idiot driver survived with no injuries, or little injuries. No.
Another, and I have touched on this before, my imminent failure. Could you believe I had my first midlife crisis at the tender age of 19? Because I looked at my life and I was like, where did all the time go? I'm so old, I'm almost dead, and I've accomplished nothing. Again, I was 19. There's almost this indelible idea that I'm going to fail, and the slightest setback means this is the end. I knew this was going to happen. There are times I would call my mom and be super depressed, telling her I might have to downsize my life because insert goal here is not going to be accomplished. And I would even be down for a few hours or few days even, only for my mom to call me to inquire and update, and I would be like, what? Oh, I fixed it, never mind, everything is fine now, la 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 la. Then there is the medical anxiety. I am really aware of my mortality to the extent that I would be daydreaming about the many different ways I can die and the aftermath of my death. And particularly, I would go over the clinical ways. I have three main categories of chronic diseases that I'm either deathly afraid of or it's just meh. At the top is cancer, multiple sclerosis, and those kind of things. I'm terrified of cancer because it's so unfair, because it barely gives you a chance. You can be doing everything right and still get it. Tier 2 is like not as bad but requires major life changes or either very expensive to maintain, like kidney disease or diabetes. And tier 3 are things that are technically bad but you can still live with them and they won't have much impact on your life, like HIV or high blood pressure. I am very medically aware of my body, and the slightest thing has me going. If I have pains in my abdomen, you're not supposed to have pains in your abdomen, so obviously something is wrong. Could be a tumor, I don't know. My brain hates me so much that I would be sleeping at 1 o'clock in the morning and my brain wakes me up to tell me
That unusual bowel movement you had yesterday? Yeah, that's colon cancer.
then I'll be up for the next 3 hours dreading the stool test results that I will have the following morning when the outpatient in the clinic is open. Listen, I can go on and on about how much stress worrying about my health causes me. Now I know some of you might be thinking words of affirmation helps with the above things I mentioned, but doesn't quite work on my brain.
Oh, you're trying to calm yourself? That's not going to fix your cancer.
Say I'm feeling down, a bit defeated, you're supposed to give yourself reassuring words like, you're powerful, you're smart. My brain's gonna be like,
Telling yourself that wouldn't change anything because self-praise is no recommendation. In fact, you're kind of being big-headed. Who are you to tell yourself that you're smart and powerful? Calm down, Bernard.
I was informed about the cube method. Inhale, count to 4, you hold, count to 4, exhale, count to 4, and then on the lower end, you count to 4. My brain's gonna be like,
A breathing exercise will not stop you from failing. In fact, it might expedite your failure because you are wasting time doing nothing. When in fact, you should be working.
you might be wondering, if you're still here watching the video, if I have all these things going on, how do I function? Well, here's the thing. I'm sort of an evidence-driven person, and if something doesn't feel right, it's usually linked to some fact in reality or perceived fact. And like I mentioned before, I use these negative feelings or emotions or ideas as guides. If I feel inadequate, I ask myself why, and I then address the reason why. Being able to discern between rational or irrational feelings is also important. And the thing that really helps with that and with everything else that I mentioned previously is gratitude. And some may say, well, you can afford to be grateful because you're in a position where you get to travel, you own a business that has different locations. Well, I didn't always have these things. What I'm talking about now is what I did in order to achieve these things. At one point, I had nothing. No friends, no parents, no stuff. Just the curiosity behind what life could be like beyond what my reality was. And there is so much to be grateful for in life. We take so much for granted because we have come to expect certain things as normal. But the reality is, your normal can be someone's dream. Not being complacent or lacking the will or drive to go beyond what you currently have, but acknowledging what you currently have may just very well be extraordinary. Yes, sometimes I may think that I have cancer, but at the back of my mind, I know someone else out there actually has cancer and they're dying and they know it, and they would trade anything to be where I am right now. And the same can be said for anything else you or I can think about ourselves. But with gratitude, you will want to do more because you'd realize that you may be in a position to do more. I try to have a balanced approach. I have health concerns. Well, I try to live a healthier life. I may be concerned about long distance travel, but I still do it. I just take as much precautions as I need to. Sometimes I don't want to do something, and you might feel the same way. You don't want to do something, but I still do it, and you as well should still do it because the purpose of doing it overrules the way I feel about it. I have a bunch of ideas and thoughts that are negative, and they are strong, but I don't let that stop me from pushing on to the life that I want for myself. And that's my tip to you. And it's a journey that I'm still on, actually. But I'll leave it there for now. Don't want to sound too preachy. But let me know your thoughts below. How do you deal with your anxiety or negative thoughts? Do you share the same feeling that your brain hates you the way I do? But that's it from me. Thank you guys for watching and enjoy the rest of whenever you're watching.